Welcome to the FMC Lounge, everyone. I am your host, Joe for Show, and in this video, we're going to be going over my updated Valby guide with the new buff that she just recently got on July 3rd. I will also be covering external component cores, mutant cells, arcade tuning, on all the builds I use, and much more. If y'all could do me a favor, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. I appreciate it a lot. Now, enough of the yapping. Let's jump straight into the video. So on July 3rd, there was a patch for a few Descendants that got a buff, and one of them was Valby. Her plop ability went up just slightly from 182 to 223, not that major. The cleanup went from 277 to 366, again not that major. But the movement speed is fixed at 1000. Movement speed increased by 300, increased by 20%. This is a nice little buff for her third ability, for her to have some more movement speed. And then the tidal wave module, they did the same thing and gave it a little bit more movement speed. And then her supply moisture, it's also giving increased damage to firearms, and they added the firearm explosive attack increase. So just in case if you're using your weapons and you know, against a boss or in a certain activity, you're gonna do more, your guns will do more damage, or for some reason you want to do a gun boss build Valby, you will also do more damage. So for our first build, it's our 100% crit build, and it's going to revolve around supply moisture. If you don't know what to do, when you're standing on water from your ability, you get increased firearm critical hit rate, skill critical hit rate, skill duration, and firearm attribute trigger. Now before we go over the mods, go ahead, get your screenshots. We're going to be running 3 crit damage mods: skill concentration, skill insight, and emergency measures. We're also running 2 other damage mod, our focus on fusion and our focus on non-attribute, so we get some cooldown and damage. We're running MP conversion and nimble fingers for even more cooldown, and then we're running 1 range mod, 1 HP mod, and then decimated for more damage. Now you can take off an HP mod and throw on another range mod or a duration mod if you want to. I personally don't like to. The reason why, I feel like 10 seconds, the small puddle is going to last for 10 seconds. That's plenty of time. I don't need it to last any longer. But if you feel like you want to last longer, then go ahead, change this if you want to. For our reactor, we are using a fusion reactor, and for our 2 substats, you want skill cooldown and skill critical hit damage. And you also want your weapon to be scout rifle for the blue beetle, which I'll go over in a few seconds. For our components, we are running a 4-piece enlightened mage set. And the main reason why is we get 6% skill power, but also when you're running the 4-piece set, when you use your ability 3 times, you're gonna get 3 stacks and last 15 seconds, and your non-attribute skill power goes up by 84%. For our external component cores, we're rocking HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense. For your sensor, I highly recommend making sure it has max MP. This is going to allow you to spam your abilities more often. Without it, you're probably going to be under 280, 270 mana, which is not a lot. You want as much mana as possible so you can spam your abilities as much. For our weapon of choice, it's going to be Blue Beetle. And earlier, like I said, for the reactor, you want a scout rifle. It's because of the Blue Beetle. And the reason why is, if you don't know, the Blue Beetle have a unique ability. Whenever you use a fusion skill, you grant yourself arche energy. Arche energy, it triggers 100% of times, duration 10 seconds, and you get 115% skill critical hit rate. This is going to allow us to get over 100 crit rate. As you see, we're going to use our first ability. That's fusion. We're going to stand on water, and now we're at 100. And if I wasn't standing on water, it's at 21. You got to make sure, you know, you're on water when you're using your abilities, so you can always have the 100% crit rate. For our second weapon of choice, we're using the last dagger. Here are the cores and the substats. Here are the mods. Again, you change these elements, whatever the enemy is weak to, depending on which activity you're doing or bossing. For our other weapon, we are using Smithereen. Here are the cores, and here are the substats. And don't worry about the fire attack, it's not necessary. I just have that on because I use this shotgun for Serena on Ice Made in normal. And here are the mods, and you would change these element mods to whatever the enemy is weak to. For our inversion reinforcement, I am rocking selected neurostimulation so I can get MP back, so I can spam my abilities more. bio density so I could get more HP, so I could be not be squishy. I could be tanky because being squishy is not my playstyle. And then we're running adrenaline rush so I could have better movement speed when I get kills on enemies. And then for arcade tuning, we didn't grab the cooldown, but we went this way instead to get the crit hit rate and the crit hit damage. And for our mutant cell, we're rocking the non-attribute cohesion. And even though we don't have this cooldown right here, we still have a 1.8 cooldown, a 4.6, and a 4 point exactly 4 point cooldown. And that's perfectly fine for me, especially when you have the gold skill cooldown. One thing to keep in mind about Valby's ability when you're using her first ability, because that's going to be our main damage, when you use it, it's going to go straight out of line. Now every time it bounces, that is like separate puddles, so you can do multiple stacks. For example, as you see right here, we're going to do it one time, and the enemy is stacking and getting multiple damage over time, even though we only use our ability one time, because the puddles, when it bounces, it's its own separate puddle. Now there's a way you could do more. When you look down and you jump up and you use your ability, it will constantly like stack on top of each other. This is how you can get more damage better if you don't understand how Valby first ability works. Now for our next build, it's going to be for Void Erosion Purge Wave 10. And I'm gonna keep it short and simple. It's basically the same as the last build. The only thing that changes, we added on a second HP mod. We got rid of Decimator and we threw on extra HP mod because enemies hit much more harder in the activity. For our reactor, we're still using the same one. Skill cooldown, skill critical hit damage. We're still rocking the 4-piece enlightened set. And we're also HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense for our external component cores. The weapons are the same. The blue beetle, we're using it as a stat stick for the 100% crit rate with a unique ability. Here are the cores and the substats if you're curious. You do not need to build into the weapon. I just did it because I wanted to. For the last dagger, here are my cores and the substats. I make sure it is chill because the enemies in wave 10, they are weak against chill. And then here are the mods and everything. For my smithereen, here are the cores and here are the substats. And then here are the mods. Obviously you would change this to chill, as we see right here. You would run chill instead, and you would want a chill instead of fire attack. I just have fire because I use the same shotgun for Serena on Ice Maiden. For our version reinforcement, we did change some stuff. We are running risk mitigation protocol just for a little bit more defense. We're still running selective neurostimulation for get our MP back, and then we also running chill focus rounds because the enemies are weak against chill. And then the arcade tuning, it's still the same, nothing changes as before. We're still rocking the non-attribute cohesion, and we still went this way for the crit hit rate build. And the way the build works when you go to these areas, you know, you just want to spam your ones a few times, and then when you see a lot of enemies, you group up. You can use your 4 if you want, get them all, do a lot of damage to it, and you just repeat over and over, and you go to each room if you have your cooldown available. So this is our non-crit build, and it's going to revolve around Hydro Pressure Bomb. Now you don't need a Transcendent Maul, you can just run the build perfectly without it. I just like to have it as another source of damage. Now before we go over the mods, go ahead and get the screenshots. We are running 2 fusion mods: Fusion Amplification, focus on fusion, non-attribute amplification, and power increase. If you don't know what power increase does, it gives us a 3rd tier of damage bucket. For example, if you notice, this has skill power, this has non-attribute skill power, and this has fusion skill power modifier. That is 3 separate damage categories, which is going to give us more damage if we would have just went focus on non-attribute. You can see right here, skill power modifier, well, not that one. See right here, fusion skill power modifier, non-attribute skill power, and then skill power right here. For our next mod, we're running 2 cooldown mods: MP conversion, nimble fingers, 1 range mod, 1 HP mod, a decimator to give us a little bit more damage, and this will help counter the negative 20 skill power modifier when we hit a 10 stack. And I'm rocking maximize conversion. The reason why I'm running this, this lets me spam my ability more because my mana is getting drained much more slower for me using my ability. Now you can't take this off. You can run something else if you want, like a duration probably, or another range mod. I just like using this mod because it lets me spam more But again, you can change this to whatever you want depending on your playstyle. You can also take out this HP mod for something else if you want as well, if that's more your playstyle as well. For our reactor, we are running a skill cooldown and a non-attribute skill power boost ratio. You'll probably get more damage if it was fusion. This is what I have for now, so this is what I'm using. Make sure your weapon mount is hand cannon, and the reason why, because of the peacemaker, which we'll go over in a few seconds. Our components, we're using a 4-piece enlightened set for that 2-set boost of the skill power 6%, and then a 4th set. When we use our ability 3 times, we get a 3-stack for 15-second duration, which is going to give us 84% non-attribute skill power boost. And then for our external component cores, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense. Now, like I said a few seconds ago, Peacemaker is our main weapon that we're going to have on us equipped, and mainly as a stat stick. And the reason why is because the unique ability, whenever you use a dimension or fusion, you're going to get single reload for peace, and the trigger is 100%, so it's always going to happen, and duration is 15 seconds, and you can get up to a max stack of 5, and then each stack is going to give you a 9.5% more non-attribute skill power boost. This allows your abilities to do more damage. For our next weapon, we are using the last dagger. Here are the cores and the substats. Here are the mods. You would change these element mods to a different element depending on the enemy or the weakness. Depending on the weakness of the enemy. Battle weapon is the smithereen. Here are the cores. Here are the substats. And here are the mods. And you would change, these element mods to whatever the enemy is weak to. For our inversion reinforcement, I am running adrenaline rush, so I have more movement speed, so I can try to sort of keep up with Bunny because she's leaving us in the dust now. Bio density augmentation for more HP, and the selected neurostimulation, so I get more mana back, will help me spam my abilities even more. For our arcade tuning, it's sort of similar to the skill crit arcade tuning, as you can see right here. The only thing that's different is we didn't go this route because we're going non-crit, which allowed us to put more points into getting this enhanced skill cooldown, and we also are rocking still non-attribute cohesion as our mutant cell. If anybody's wondering about our cooldowns, our first ability is at 1.9, our second ability is at 3 seconds, and then our fourth ability is at 20 seconds. And the way this build works is the same as before. You just spam your first ability round, and it'll do damage over time. And if you didn't know, with Hydro Pressure Bomb, the more enemies that are getting hit by the laundry, aka the puddles on the floor, the more damage this is going to do. So if you see a group of enemies and you're able to get multiple of them in this water, when you use this, it's going to do much more damage. So for our next build, it's going to be our bossing build, which you can use for every boss in the game, even Ice Maiden in normal and Ice Maiden challenge. Just for Ice Maiden challenge, you would change something up, which I'll show in a little bit. But for the mods, go ahead and get the screenshots. It's pretty much the same as our non-crit build. The only thing different is we're not running power increase here. We're running focus on that attribute instead. And the reason why, we want that skill cooldown. The whole point of this build is to spam your first ability as much as possible. We have a cooldown at 1.3, which is perfectly fine for me. If it's higher, it's going to take much more longer for you to kill the boss. I am running 2 cooldown mods, MP conversion, nimble fingers, 1 duration mod, 1 range mod, and a battle of stamina for a little bit more duration. Now, if you were going to use this build for Ice Maiden challenge mode, you will need to probably take off one of these duration mod and throw an anti-freeze solution instead, so you won't get frozen by the boss and then she'll instantly just melt you because you're just standing still. For our reactor, we are using a non-attribute fusion reactor and 2 stats at the bottom. You got to make sure it has additional skill attacking Colossus and skill cooldown. It has to have both. And for our components, we are still rocking the 4-piece enlighten, the external component cores, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense, HP and defense. And then for our weapon of choice, it's Peacemaker because of the stat stick, because of the unique ability. It's going to give us more damage because we're constantly spamming our first ability, which is fusion. Here are the cores and the substats. Again, you don't need to build into the weapon. I just did because I wanted to. Our other weapon is the last dagger. Here are the cores and the substats. And then here are the mods. Again, you would change this depending on whatever the boss is weak to. And then this weapon, I only use this for Ice Maiden, either normal or challenge. and I'm using this to break, you know, her weak points so I can get that skill power buff. Here are the cores, here are the substats, and then here are the mods right here. For inversion reinforcements, I am running void resistance, selective cellular stimulation so I can get some HP back. I'm running fire on focus realm, mainly only for Ice Maiden, normal, or challenge. For any other bosses, you would run whatever they're weak to. For example, if it's gluttony, you want fire. If it's molten fortress, you want chill. And then for our arcade tuning, it's pretty much the same as other builds. The only thing different is you got to make sure you get these 3 stats right here so you can get more damage against Colossus. For our mutant cell, we're using final preparation. When we attack an enemy with a 4th skill, we're going to get more skill power and skill effect range. So this is going to help us do a little bit more damage with our 4th ability while the boss is still taking damage from our 1st ability that we set before. And with all of that, that is how I have a low 1.3 cooldown timer. Here's a quick little gameplay of me showing you how the Valby bossing build works against all the regular hard mode bosses. And here's a quick little gameplay of showing you how the Valby bossing build works against Ice Maiden normal. Just make sure you don't suck like me. You can have better aim. You hit your shots. You'll get a lot more quicker completion. And for Ice Maiden challenge, you're just gonna have to slow play it like you would do with any other Descendants. Break the weak points, do your ability, kill enemy, get your health and mana back, repeat, repeat, repeat. If you need a reactor for a Valby, there will be a pinned comment down below of a YouTube short showing you where you can go to farm her reactor. But that's going to be it for the video. Hopefully this information will help you on deciding on if you want to play Valby or what builds you want to make for her. But on that note, I will catch you guys in the next video.